Here we have the current stock market update for Faraday Future Intelligent Electric Incorporated, stock ticker FFIE. So here we can see that the stock has seen a fairly significant run higher here over the last few trading sessions. Of course, most of this activity was propelled higher by the 40-to-1 stock split that was associated with this stock. So we can see that this was a headline that did attract the market's attention and did inspire some people to start buying in at these lows. However, as I've commonly said with this stock, one of the typical responses that you tend to see with FFIE is that any spike rallies tend to be very short term in nature and reverse quite quickly. So as we can see here, we've already lost a significant portion of this price movement, even though the stock did rally substantially on a short term basis. So if we sort of drill down to the breakout point here, we can see that share prices were trading at roughly $3.50 prior to this breakout. So a movement all the way to $11.40 is quite substantial. But for anybody that was not aware of this news before it was ready to happen, it would have been quite difficult I think, for most people to exit the position at these higher levels. And this is something that I've recommended that people do: wait for price spikes here, and then look for ways to get out of this stock. Because these rallies have been very short term in nature, short lived, and you do need to be very aggressive about taking gains when they develop. So we will take a look at this recent price rally here, because there is an interesting turnaround here that is going on, and we do need to sort of identify whether or not this current rally is sustainable and whether or not these price levels will be able to continue moving higher going forward. So if we take a look here, what we can see is that the current rally has already retraced a significant proportion of its prior upside movement. So specifically, what we can point to is the share price itself has already fallen through the 50% retracement of this entire move. So that means, of course, that we've also broken through the 23.6 and 38.2% Fibonacci retracements. So the fact that we have now given back nearly 2/3 of the entire price move is quite telling as far as this stock's future is concerned. So currently what we're looking at here is a 61.8% Fibonacci retracement that comes in at nearly $6.35, which is about 30 cents from the current price low, which came in at $6.67. So this is a very strong move to the top side, but this does seem to be based on a short-term one-time event, and the gains that were ultimately seen here were incredibly short-term in nature. So anybody that was not prepared and ready to start to take gains on this upward price movement might have already missed out on substantial potential for some sort of gain here in this stock. So this is the reason that I was suggesting that people probably set some sort of profit target here and get out of this name as quickly as possible when you do start to see price rallies like this. So significantly, what will be watched here going forward will be the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level. It is quite interesting that we have started to base right in this area. As we can see here, the current price low comes in at 667. The fib level comes in at 635. And what do we see here? We see a sideways movement that's really representing a consolidation pattern. So currently, it's not totally surprising to see the markets sort of, process these gains here, try to figure out the next movement, the next price movement. But whether or not these movements are going to be sustainable looks incredibly suspicious at this point. I mean, if that were the case, why would we see such a significant turnaround so quickly? If we do find a base here and we do sort of break out above this 751 resistance zone, and we do start to move higher. I'm not saying anything's impossible, but what you would really need to see then would be a break back above this $11.40 mark. If you can see that, then you can start to make an argument that this rally is the real thing. However, the fact that we retraced more than 50% of this move, in a very short term time frame. This is a 5-minute price chart that we're looking at here. This is not a daily price chart. So this total movement here, we're talking about 24 hours of time. And we've already seen share prices move from $3.50 to nearly $11.50, and then now back down to right around $6.50. So the fact that these two-way movements are continuing here makes these movements highly suspicious in nature, and it seems to be much more related to the fact that the stock was associated with a 40-to-1 stock split rather than a true price movement or a true trend development in the other direction. So if we sort of look in at the oscillator reading here, we will find some additional information, and there is some evidence here which does suggest that we could start to see a trending movement higher. So what we're starting to see here is a little bit of a as you can see here, the oscillator is starting to turn green and rising above the midpoint. So what this does tell us is that we could be on the verge of a positive upward movement here. But this is a 5-minute chart. So, the movements here are going to have to be, they're going to have to start relatively soon, because if we do not start to see these movements relatively soon, uh, the risk here is that you start to then break through support at this 667 level. You would quickly start to break Fibonacci support levels as well at $6.35. And then the next level to the downside would come in at the 786 retracement, which currently rests at $5 even. So that is kind of an interesting line in the sand that people will have to be watching here going forward, because if we do lose the 618 retracement, the next level to the downside becomes the 786 retracement, and that's currently showing at $5 even. So there is some evidence here that we could be basing. I mean, it's not entirely impossible here, but given the quickness of this price move and the fact that this was based on a one-time event, I mean, I don't think that people can reasonably expect to see 40-to-1 stock splits in this stock occurring regularly. I mean, is this going to be occurring once a week or anything like that? I mean, it's not realistic to have that sort of expectation. So it does seem that this is much more based on a short-term news event rather than anything else. And we have to remember, stock splits don't actually change any of the fundamentals of a company. All you're doing is sort of dividing the pie in more sections. It's the pie itself is still equal. There is no fundamental change to the underlying earnings or anything like that. It's really not a fundamental event. The stock splits tend to be positive for stocks, but they do tend to be very short-lived in nature, just as what we're seeing here. It's a shorter-term news event. I mean, there are other examples of that. Broadcom did it recently. Nvidia did it recently. You were seeing share prices that were much higher. And all this really does is make the stock a bit more accessible. But in this case, it was the stock was already trading at $3.50. So it's not even clear why they would have done a stock split. It doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. And this really looks like it was designed much more to gain some news attention rather than anything else. So I currently don't believe that this move is sustainable. And I think that if you're still long this stock, it's time to get out of this stock and to look for other names, because I do expect this share price to continue extending lower after the short-term spike higher. So here's the current market analysis for Faraday Future Intelligent Electric Incorporated, stock ticker FFIE. Our high-value trading strategies membership is currently available for a limited time for only $9.99 per month. These high-conviction investment strategies are characterized by superior risk-to-reward metrics that target massive, market-beating returns over time. Join now to outperform the market. Lock in this special introductory rate of just $9.99 per month for the entire lifetime of your membership, and start trading stocks with the pros.